Excel offers some very sophisticated drawing tools. What you can do, for example, is go to the Insert tab in the ribbon, and there's an Illustrations group, which has a number of illustrations we can work with. Let's start by inserting a new sheet. I'm going to press the key combination Shift F11 for a new sheet, and I may even call this sheet Drawing Tools. The first thing I'd like to show you is you can insert shapes. And if I click on the illustrations button, you may not need to on yours. You might see the shapes button straight away. It just depends on the size of your screen. But under the insert tab in the illustrations group will be a shapes button. And when you click it, you'll get a collection of shapes, whether they be lines, rectangles, basic shapes, etc. So for example, some people will draw flowcharts. I might, for example, draw a particular terminal, and I'll drag to make the shape. Then I've got a collection of shapes here, and whilst I'm clicked on this particular shape, I have Drawing Tools Format tab in the ribbon. If I click away from the shape, that Drawing Tools Format tab will disappear, and if I click back on the shape, it reappears. So now I'd like to add another shape, and it's just a rectangle. So I'll drag, and I'll use my grid lines actually as a way of helping me sort of like line things up. Then I might add another shape, which might be a decision, which looks like this one here. And I'll drag to make that shape. And I'm just putting roughly in place. I might click this shape and press Ctrl D to duplicate and make two duplicates of that shape. Duplicates. And move this. I might then also press Ctrl D and duplicate this shape. So you can create a number of sheets. You can easily move them just by dragging them with this four-headed arrow of a mouse pointer. You can easily resize them with the two-headed arrow mouse pointer. You can easily duplicate them just by pressing Ctrl D. Having resized them, you can also, if necessary, rotate them, and that's what this particular antenna is at the top of a shape. It lets you rotate a shape to the left or rotate a shape to the right, but I'm just going to put it back to where it was. So you can rotate shapes as well. If you've got shapes on top of each other, you can give order to shapes. I've put this decision on top of this process, and what I can do now is I can choose the option to send it backwards or send it to the back. Send it backwards, I actually need to have three shapes to show that effectively. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this shape is on top of these three shapes. If I send it backwards, it just goes back one, behind the diamond. If I send it to the back, it goes behind all of them. And if I drag it, you can see it's behind all of them now. If I bring it forward, it comes forward one shape. It's still behind the diamond. But if I bring it forward, or to the front, I should say, it'll bring right to the front. So you've got layers. So it's whether you send it one back, one forward, or directly straight to the back, or directly straight to the front. That's a possibility. And I'll just move it back and put it back where it was. So you've got order. You can also change the color of various shapes. For instance, I might click this shape, hold the Control or the Shift, and click these shapes. And I might change the shape fill to maybe a green. I might click this shape and this shape with the Shift key down or the Control key down. And I'll change the shape fill to maybe orange. So you can change the color of shapes. You've even got shape colors in here which are quite groovy looking as well. Quite 3D-ish. So I might choose that and hold the Control or the Shift and choose a green sort of 3D-ish, and then click on this one and choose a blue 3D-ish. So you've got all sorts of different options as far as manually changing the fill color, manually changing the outside line color, putting any effects on, like giving a shape a shadow or a reflection or a glow, those sorts of things. All sorts of artistic options in there, and just get heavy on your undo if it completely screws up. So you've got various sorts of themes and styles that you can apply. I also want to add some lines to my diagram, so I'm going to go back to this particular collection here, and I'm going to choose a connector. And I'm going to drag from this connection point to this connection point. And I'm going to drag from this connection point to this. Now my lines aren't straight, and that's fine, because it means that my shapes aren't lined up. And so I'm accepting that I'm going to have to line up my shapes properly. But I'm still dragging from one connection point to another connection point. And connection points are these little circles to circle, circle to circle. Now if things aren't lined up, don't try and straighten the line, straighten the shape. So I need to click on this shape and hit the right arrow and move it slightly to the right. Now when I hit it to the right, it's sort of still bending. So if I hold the shift key, the control key, the control and arrow key will move it just the littlest bit. Control left arrow to get it to line up, or control right arrow. You can hit the arrow keys to the right and the left, but if it jumps too far, use the control key to do little micro movements. Like this needs to, see how there's a kink in that line? This diamond needs to move to the left, just control left arrow a bit to straighten up that line. Oh, and even then it's still not quite lined up. So we're going to have to try something else. I'm going to click this shape, this shape, this shape, and this shape, and go for the Align button on my Drawing Tools Format tab. And I'm going to line them through the center. Now they're perfectly lined up and my lines are all straight. These two here, I'm going to line them up, align to the top. So they're perfectly to the top now. And that's caused the lines to straighten up. If your lines are out of kilter, it's not necessarily the lines, it's more than likely the shapes. So anyway, you can put shapes in and you can modify them to your heart's content, and you can even add text. I'm just going to start typing really, and I'll press Control E to center. I'll click on this one and type finish, and press Control E to center. I'll click this one and type decision, and Control E is center, and then here I'll just put gather data, Control E, and then decision, file it, Control E, act on it, Control E. So yeah, you can also press Control A, which selects all shapes. Just click away and go Control A. Actually no, you have to hold the shift key and click on each one very carefully not to move them, and you can center them through the middle as well as through the center. So that just makes everything nicely horizontally and vertically centered as far as the text goes. So besides adding shapes, other illustrations you can add might be pictures, either pictures that you've taken with your camera or acquired, or a logo. So I'm going to go Insert, and through the Illustrations group I'm going to choose Pictures. Now I'm looking for some pictures. You will probably have a folder called Sample Pictures you can use. And here's mine. And I'm just going to grab any picture, perhaps a lighthouse, and insert the lighthouse. You can move the picture in the same way as you do with a shape, just by dragging it by its middle. You can resize a picture just like a shape with the two-headed arrow, and I'm just dragging from one corner into the center of the picture so that I don't distort the picture. And I'll place the picture there. So it's easy to move a picture, four-headed arrow, just like a shape, and resize a picture. And I find dragging from a corner to the center is a good way to not distort a picture. When you click on a picture, you suddenly get the Picture Tools Format tab, and that gives you all sorts of options that you can use to work with your picture. So you can correct the sharpness, for example, and the brightness and the contrast of a picture. You can change the color of a picture should you want to. And just rolling over each option lets you see what they look like. You can even add artistic effects to a picture, so you can make it look like you've drawn it with a pencil, roughly or nicely. You can add all sorts of styles to a picture using this option here. So you've got various frames and reflections and soft edging and all sorts of things like this. If you completely screw up a picture, you can always reset a picture and put it back to how it began. You can also compress a picture so that it doesn't bloat the file size and take up too much space. So I tend to compress the picture, not just this picture but all pictures, and I'll delete any cropped areas. So I'll just use the document resolution and OK. So you can compress a picture as well. So there's quite a bit that you can do with pictures, and I'll just size that and move that over there for a moment. The other thing you can do is you can also do SmartArt. If I go to Insert in the Illustrations group, you have SmartArt. And if I click this button, I can actually choose from a variety of list, process, cycle, hierarchy, different types of diagrams is what SmartArt is. It's diagrams. So I might, for instance, choose hierarchy and choose an organization chart and click OK. And so here's my organization chart, which again I can move like any object and put on my sheet, and I can resize as well. And then you just proceed to add people to the boxes. You can add any shapes that you need. I'm sitting on this particular shape with the word Mary in it, and if I want to add a shape, I'll simply click the shape and I'll go to Smart Tools Design tab in the ribbon, and I'll hit the drop down on Add Shape, and I might add a shape below. I might then click back on Mary and I might add a shape after. And then I might click on this shape and add a shape below again. And then I might add a shape after that shape. So you just continue to add as many shapes as you need and add another shape after. I can click on Mary and influence the layout of the shapes below Mary by going to the Layout tab and say give me a standard layout under Mary. I can click on this tab, I'll add Tim, and go to Layout and ask for a standard layout under Tim. So you can control the layout of the boxes underneath the box you have selected to either be left hanging, right hanging, standard, or even both. I can click this one and type, say, Jack, and I could promote Jack just by clicking this button, and I can demote Jack just by clicking this button. You can also change the colors of SmartArt, and you can also change the styles. So there's lots of options as far as SmartArt goes, and you can even change the type of organization that you chose by just resting on these various layouts. So SmartArts are diagrams. And lastly, you can do things like screenshots. If I was to go to Insert and back to Illustrations, I've got screenshots here. And if I've got any windows open in the background, I can take a shot of that screen. So for example, I might take this screenshot and I can move it and resize it as I can any other object. So you've got quite strong drawing tools in Excel.